In this video, we're going to be talking about energy healing, how to deal with negative emotions. So without further ado, let's do this. So the first one I'm going to say straight away is meditation. Now meditation really helps you because it really allows you to silence the mind, because often the mind is a subject of a lot of chitter chatter that goes on, and if we can silence the mind, it means that it can have a very big effect on our emotions, so we can almost reduce or dissipate a lot of the negative emotions that we're feeling. Now, how do you do meditation? There's so many different ways that you can meditate. The first one, the most easiest one, I would say anyway, is mindfulness meditation. And all you do literally is this: you sit down, put a timer on, time yourself for 5, 10, 15 minutes, or if you're just starting, maybe 5 minutes. And then just close your eyes and breathe in and breathe out as you would normally. And all you do is just pay attention to the breath. That's all you do. And then whenever feelings crop up, all you do is label those feelings. Just say thought. And then what you do is just go back to the breath. And you just keep doing this whenever you feel though you're drifting off. You just keep going back to the breath. And that is a really good way of being able to deal with your negative emotions. The second tip that I would recommend to you is, as I mentioned before in the first tip, is mindfulness. Now mindfulness, all that means is basically being in the here and now. So for instance, if you're going out for a walk, all you do is you focus on your breath, you focus on your bodily sensation. So if you're walking, for instance, then you would focus on the footsteps and your breath and your body moving. And that's what basically mindfulness is. It's focusing on the here and now. You're not worried about the future. You're not worried about the past. So mindfulness is a great tip for you to do it. But specifically for the second tip, I would say is exercise. So when you're exercising, whether that's 5, 10, 15 minutes or an hour, then you put your focus on what? You put your focus on the breath and the exercises that you're doing. So for instance, if you're doing the squats, for example, then as you're squatting down, you feel the sensation in your thigh, in the whole of your leg, and in your breath and your bodily sensations that's feeling the movement of the squats. So mindfulness and doing the exercise incorporated within that is going to be amazing for you. The third tip I would offer to you is what's called positive affirmations. So positive affirmations is basically saying positive statements, and what they do, and do not ever underestimate this because you might have heard this plenty of times, what they do is they reprogram the mind. So if you do it and you repeat any statements long enough, then what happens is those statements turn into beliefs and they turn into convictions. Then that has a massive effect on your behavior. So then you become more positive. One of the best resources that I found, and I'm going to mention this again and again through my videos, is getting these affirmations. You can get it from a book called Manifest Now, and it's by a lady called Adil Ahmed. Now in this book, it mentions literally about 100 affirmations, from self-love to abundance, manifestation, and all those sorts of things. And I've used a lot of my positive affirmations from this book. So you could use this straight away and you'll immediately notice the difference in your behavior and in your emotions. So give that a go. The fourth one to never underestimate is prayer. Now prayer is so powerful. Now I know some of you might be atheist, some of you might be Christian, some of you might be Jew, or you might be spiritual in general. This really helps, because you can just pray, and when you pray, what you're doing is you're alleviating a lot of the emotions, a lot of what you're thinking and feeling, and you're putting them in a prayer. And I like to normally do them first thing in the morning or in the evening. Often in those times you have a lot on your mind, a lot to get off of your chest, and what you'll feel after you finish your prayer is you'll feel relief, you'll feel calmness, and you'll just feel this tranquility once you've done it. So I recommend, regardless of whether you have a religious belief or not, to use prayer. I mean, I know plenty of people who don't practice, who are not necessarily religious, who do prayer, and they tell me the spiritual and mental benefits of doing prayer. So I recommend you that use that one right away. Start using prayer from now. The other tip I can recommend to you is going out into nature. Now when you're going out into nature, what you'll feel is you'll just feel this sense of peace, tranquility. So you can go anywhere around your block, out in the park, or maybe the park is not the right place to go at the timing of this video because of Corona and COVID-19. But just to have that walk in nature, what you do is when you do walk, you feel this tranquility within you, because you're being immersed into an environment which is greater than us. And you just feel the birds singing. You You can almost feel you are feeling the fresh air, and it's just so good for your well-being. And I highly recommend that you start using it, and you will immediately feel the profound benefits, and you'll just feel this freshness in your mind when you come back indoors. So definitely give that a go. Sixth tip that I can recommend is connecting with people. Now, when you're connecting with people, just literally call people that you trust. It could be your friends and your family. Now, what often happens is when we're in a negative mindset, the negative chatter is going on, the negative self-talk is going on, and we often get ourselves down into a downward spiral. And we often feel very isolated. And when we're isolated, we're going to be in a very dangerous place. We can get into addictions, and we can get into that really dark place. So the opposite of isolation is connecting with people. So I would suggest that if you've got any friends or any family, that you contact them on a regular basis, daily. That way what you can do is you can speak about your problems, how you're feeling. Problem spoken about is a problem halved. Okay, so, and it's so true for me, and I can tell you from experience that it really does help for you to speak to people, because often you're unloading, you're having a sounding board with someone or a number of people, and it just reduces the negative emotions significantly, and that's helped me so much in my development. So find those few key people and allow yourself to be vulnerable and just explain how you're feeling, and you just feel so much more better. So give that a try. When you're doing all of the tips that I've mentioned before, you develop what's called this self-awareness. You become aware of what's going on within you. Now, there's a tip that I want to introduce to you if you've not heard about it. It's about the ego. Now, I don't want to go into a massive discussion about it, but basically what it is that within you there's what's called the ego. Now, from when you were a little baby, as you grew up, you become conditioned. You become conditioned by people around you. That could be your friends, family, school, college, and you start to develop this I-ness, this personality, this identity, and it becomes about you. And you become so absorbed in this ego that you start to develop character defects, which is like pride, envy, lust, being judgmental, and lots of other negative behavioral characteristics. So what you do is, when you're becoming, or you're using these tips I've mentioned before, you become aware of this ego that you have within you. You have your ego and you have your higher self. And your higher self is what you were born with as a baby. You were born as an innocent person, as an innocent spirit, someone who is good, whole and pure. So you've almost got this battle between you, the higher self, and your ego. And so whenever you're dealing with yourself, when you're dealing with situations in your life, you'll often find that your ego is taken over. And this is where it's so important to have this self-awareness, which you will develop as you incorporate these other tips that I've mentioned. And just be aware, because often this conflict will happen, and it's important not to beat yourself up about it. All you need to do is identify when the ego takes over. Because remember, this isn't you. This is your ego, and you've got to think of the ego as not you. So just notice it and never identify with it, and just say to yourself something like, this isn't me, I'm just an observer of what the ego is saying to me. That's it. So I hope this video has benefited you. I really hope it has. If it has, then please like this video. Please subscribe to my channel, because I'm going to bring in more content, more regular content, which I hope will heal you mentally, emotionally, physically, psychologically. So until then, stay tuned. And also, if you can please drop a comment in the box below. Is there any feedback, if you felt this video is good, and your experiences of what are the tips that you have for all the other viewers. But anyway, until then, all my love to you. Speak soon. Take care.